Mr. Secretary. Since I understand we have votes in the 4 o'clock time frame, we'll try to stick to the 5-minute rule, and that's for the members to be aware of. Mr. Secretary, our committee has long supported, and this has been very bipartisan, the Department's efforts to keep the world's best science and engineering workforce here at home and to keep our position as the world's top innovator. We also need to think one step further by making sure we don't just invent the newest technologies, but that we then manufacture them in the United States. After all, devoting federal funding to support a research team of 10 people at home just so a company can support 1,000 manufacturing jobs overseas truly misses the mark. Mr. Secretary, beyond the advanced manufacturing program your budget proposes, how are you working, and this is very much in line with the ranking member's comments, to ensure that federally funded research and development conducted at American universities, our laboratories and companies, then leads to manufacturing and jobs here in these United States?
Well, Mr. Chairman, first, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that if we invest in research in American universities or national labs or in companies, that we would like to see not only that research lead to discoveries, but that research leads to manufacturing in the United States, because that is where we will see our future prosperity. Department of Energy is working in a number of ways. First, when there are issues having to do with IP generated by the Department of Energy, we're looking at what means we have to say, if you support a startup company or research that you can, what are the means we have at our disposal to make sure that it doesn't go to the highest bidder and just...
What are those means?
Well, for example, I'll tell you one example. We supported some research done by a company, BP Solar, which was based in America, on manufacturing of improving the manufacturability of silicon to drive the cost down. It was actually a successful program, but BP Solar decided that, given what was happening in China, that they were going to get out of this business. And we were taking steps to make sure that that IP generated by American taxpayers would have controls that, again, it doesn't migrate.
So it did migrate?
Well,
what's the reference to China?
Well,
we know that China is aggressive in this area, but
right.
If we made, and you gave this example yourself,
right.
If we made this substantial investment, what did we do to protect that intellectual property?
What we do is we look at the legal means we have of making sure, and so I've been told by my people, for example, when I learned about this, that no, we're if this intellectual property is, quote, then sold to somewhere else, the United States will look at what means we have. But
well, respectfully,
right.
The Department of Energy has been in business for quite a long time. You've been the secretary for a couple of years. This isn't new news here. We have the excellence represented by a lot of incredible talent at all our national laboratories, and they've been coming up with some pretty ingenious ideas. What's to prevent that ingenuity and innovation to be sucked out of some of our labs and find ourselves confronting challenges based on the cheap labor and manufacturing base in places like India or China?
Well, Mr. Chairman, what has happened in the last 10, 15 years is a growing realization that we can't take the industrial side of what we do for granted, and but also an appreciation of how important it is that we remain a technology leader, and especially high-tech manufacturing that rests on the intellectual property that we generate here in the United States.
You headed up one of those laboratories.
Correct.
And God bless you for doing that, and the investments we made in the variety of innovators and people under your area of responsibility. What was to take? What prevented them from that information from migrating abroad?
Well, first,
And what
this
steps
is,
can we legally take if indeed it's possible in a global economy with the
we're-
internet?
when we support the development of an idea, we can, in principle, look at steps, and we're doing this increasingly. When we have the ideas, first we're greasing the interaction between the private sector in the United States and what comes out of universities and national laboratories. In addition to that, if you're supporting research, we are in discussions. If you support this research with U.S. taxpayer money, how do you begin to say, all right, we don't want to see this then go, again, as I said, go to the highest bidder. These are complex things that we're looking at.
Well, we shouldn't be looking at it. How are you acting on it? I mean, are the horses already out of the barn here? I mean, have we come up with a lot of ingenious ideas and innovations and patents, and we're, they're being marketed by our global competitors?
Well, the U.S. government doesn't have complete control over certain things, and so when a company, let's say a startup company, picks up an intellectual property and develops it, depending on what that company...
We just don't want them setting up shop outside Beijing. I mean, especially if we, as the taxpayers, have made these types of investments.
So, it's a set of reasons to encourage American companies to set up manufacturing in the United States. Those set of reasons include provisions on whether they can use research supported by the Department of Energy, but they also, quite frankly, also include issues having to do with the climate in the United States, the fiscal policies, and the tax policies.
We know the climate here, and it's not inuring to our benefit at the moment. So let me yield to the ranking member who through his, I think, opening statement shares very much my concern here. I mean, and he can speak from an industrial base that has been stripped of a lot of its assets.